everyone, welcome back to Pommy and Oz. I hope we're all doing really well. If you can drop a like, drop a subscribe, it would mean the world to me. We are encroaching 700, so if we can get there, that would be sick. What we're doing today, AFL round 2 is right upon us, so we're going to go through a little bit of a preview and the tips for that. Last week we got 6 out of 9, which I'm quite happy with. It was there was a few shocks and surprises, so let's try and aim for 9 out of 9. And we start off with the blockbuster tie for me, Carlton versus Collingwood, and this should be an interesting game. A lot of subplots in this one. Both sides have said that they're going for finals, and 0 and 2 if you start the year there. Only 5 teams have ended up making finals from that start. There's a lot of interesting little subplots in this game because we know the historical significance of Carlton versus Collingwood. It's a game that is steeped in really what the AFL is about, and both sides will be looking to effectively, historically, jeopardise the 8 for both sides. It should be a really intriguing game. We know last week Carlton, they went down to Richmond, putting in a real heartfelt performance and running the Tigers close at times. The Pies, they played the Doggies, and the Doggies, their pace, their ability to spread the play got the job done. It was interesting last week as well because Collingwood do sacrifice a lot of possessions, and that is what happens when they lose. The Pies traditionally like to retain the ball. It's a very structured approach, and Carlton's at times is kind of chaotic in their approach. It's an interesting myriad of styles. I feel in this one though that we're going to have the trend broken. We know that in the last 5 the Collingwood have won the last 4. We have to go back to 2017 round 7 for Carlton's win. I think the form guide here is going to be bucked, and I'm backing here that the Blue Boys get the job done by 17. But on the Friday we've got Geelong versus Brisbane, and this should be again another intriguing encounter. Geelong, they come off the back of the shock loss in Adelaide to Adelaide, which will be a bit of a concern for them. Adelaide really took the game to Geelong and really stifled that usual fluent game plan that they have. It was interesting to see because at times Adelaide made Geelong look really bang average. We know they've recruited heavily in the off-season, as they often do, of getting them efficient ball users to really myriad their game plan. The issue for them as well is danger misses for 3 weeks. Brisbane, on the other hand, though, they had a shock loss as well to Sydney. And again, same story. A youthful, real fast, hard-running side put pressure to their game plan. It was a game, really, of both sides where pressure really told, which I find quite interesting. We know that if we look in the last 2 times that they faced, that Geelong have got up against Brisbane. They do have a habit of beating Brisbane. In the last 5 times as well, Brisbane have only got 1 victory, and that was in 2019. It is intriguing because this one is at the GMHBA, and it is a tough one to call because, again, going back to that, 5 sides have won in finals when they've started 0 and 2. This is another game that potentially is going to make it very hard for the other one, and they're going to have to break history and what happens. I'm backing in Brisbane here, though. I think Dangerfield is a huge out for them. I think it's a huge outlet ball. Geelong have got huge injury issues as well, and I think Brisbane will have enough in this tank to get this job done. I'm going to pick Brisbane here by 14. Then Saturday afternoon we've got Sydney at the SCG hosting Adelaide Crows, and this is an interesting one because Sydney got a tremendous win last week. Their young core was on fire. Errol Golden as well particularly being a highlight, and it shows that Sydney are starting to develop more of an ostentatious game plan. Really is expansive and really aggressive, which isn't something that you expect from Sydney. We know that they're a hard, gritty, determined side. The Crows, on the other hand, their youth really did tail wag and topped up with some of their key performers as well. Tex was absolutely simply unplayable. And that is an intriguing thing. I think that when you look at Sydney, Adelaide, they need them key targets. And it is a thing that I think, can they do it every week? Marshall was phenomenal as well for Adelaide last week. He really acts as that decoy, which does free up the space for their small forwards and also Tex himself. It's an interesting one because when you look at this historically, Sydney do have the wood on Adelaide. In the recent times, last year, as we know, they ran out 3-point winners. But when we look at the last 5, it does separated 3-2. I think that's an important thing, though. I think home advantage is huge for both of these sides, and I'm going to back Sydney by 17 points. Then we have Port Adelaide versus Essendon, and this is a really intriguing tie on paper because there's kind of like a lot of questions to be asked about both sides. A lot of people are asking the questions, can Port Adelaide keep it up? Can they go back to back, get that top spot and go one better and make finals? Essendon, on the other hand, they're a team that are in transition. We saw that as well this week from Essendon. They were 39 points up at half-time versus the Hawthorn, and Hawthorn pegged them back. With a display of pressure, they changed their game plan, and Essendon kind of really just fell away, particularly in that third quarter. They had no answer to that increase in tackle pressure and that increase in territory. Port Adelaide, the way they play is really splendid to watch. I know they beat North Melbourne, and you can say that North Melbourne aren't a top side, but you've got to beat and put away what is in front of you. One thing that impressed me about Port is their forward pressure. Their pressure around the ball is always high, and that is where we saw Essendon come unstuck last week. When we look historically as well, in the last 5, Port have won the last 2, more importantly, where Essendon won the 3 prior to that. So Essendon have the advantage in recent times. However, Port, when it is counted, like last year, they blew them away. And I think you're going to see more of the same, especially in Adelaide. I think that Port Adelaide are just too good. Just too good. They're young contingent. They're maturer heads. They're better ball users. I think Port will win this one by 28. Then in the evening, Marvel Stadium, St Kilda host Melbourne Demons. And this is a really intriguing fixture for both sides. St Kilda, they really did grind hard and really got an impressive win, I think, last week against GWS. Melbourne, they beat a depleted Fremantle side, and they did what they had to do. They showed their game plan. It's hard work, it's industrious, it's endeavour. But when you come against St Kilda, it's their pace that hurts you. St Kilda's ability to move the ball so quickly causes a lot of sides issues, and we saw that against GWS, who aren't the slowest side there is. Last time out, we know Melbourne, they grinded and they stifled and they stopped St Kilda's fluent ball movement. St Kilda have won, though, have won 3 out of 5. Melbourne are the sandwich ends of that. It's going to be an intriguing encounter, this one, because Melbourne are going to really have to stop that fluent ball movement from St Kilda. When St Kilda are playing well, they move it so quickly, their transition is fantastic, their ability to score from turnover is impressive, and that forward line, they can just lock you in. They can just hurt you that way. I think because of them reasons alone, I think St Kilda are just going to be too much for Melbourne. I think St Kilda will win this one by 18 points, and I think it's going to be a very, very good game. Then we have Gold Coast. They host North Melbourne at Metricon at 8:10. Now, last time out, Gold Coast, they faced the Eagles and they ran them hard for a good couple of quarters. In the end, West Coast, greater experience and probably more proficient ball loose, got the job done. Port Adelaide ran riot against North Melbourne, and they really did display the golfing class at the moment between the bottom side and last year's top side. It's going to be an intriguing encounter because Gold Coast, we know, pulled apart North Melbourne last year. They won 91-28. Up until that point, Gold Coast do hold 3 versus 2 wins in the last 5. I think Gold Coast have just got enough to do this one. I think North Melbourne have got something building. They have got a lot of young players and a lot of new recruits. Jaden Stevenson was the standout last week. But I think Gold Coast just have a plan, and I do think that their plan will be good enough. I think their ball movement, their ability to play the inside game quite smartly as well, I think we'll see them on top, even without Rao. I think Gold Coast will win this one by 11. I think it'll be a great game, though, and it's one that I'm going to keep an eye on and I'll be interested in seeing. Then Sunday, we kick off Hawthorn versus Richmond at the G. And traditionally, this game is usually a very good one to watch for the partial observer. Hawthorn, last time they faced Richmond, blew them away 71-39. But Richmond do hold the advantage historically. 4 out of 5 is a Richmond game. Last time out for both sides, Hawthorn really did adjust their game plan well. That kick mark heavy game plan really did have another layer to it with that forward pressure, their midfield pressure. They went up a gear, they used the handball, they utilised the tactical advantage versus Essendon and got the job done. Richmond, though, had a great warm-up. I thought Carlton ran them hard for 3.5 quarters, and it was just that ultimate ability and skill that got them over the line. This one's a tough one to call because obviously I have the Hawthorn game in my head last time, but I think because of that warm-up and the fact that Richmond had to go early, I think Richmond will be too much for Hawthorn. I think Richmond will win this one by 27 and expose a few chinks in Hawthorn's armour that I think Richmond can exploit. Then we have the Doggies. They host at Marvel the Eagles. And last time out for the Doggies was a really impressive encounter. 9 players getting over 25 touches. Their ability to harvest the football at times is really a sight to behold. Very quick side, very direct game plan as well. Up against the Eagles' more measured approach. Another side that likes the kick, that likes to hold the ball and retain possession, and they were impressive in the last quarter, particularly against the Gold Coast, just being able to wear oppositions down. I don't think you can wear the Doggies down there, and I know historically 4 wins to Eagles versus the one last time out, importantly by 2 points against the Eagles. I think it's a game plan for me that the Doggies has gone up a gear. I think they can play ugly, but I think their ability to just have outlets all around the ground is tough, particularly for a side like the Eagles. Their forward pressure at the Doggies is really good as well. They don't mind pegging you back, and I think they can just really shore up that short ball. We saw that with Collingwood. Collingwood like that short ball, like to retain possession. They're kind of an Audi version of the West Coast Eagles. I think the Doggies will be too much here. I think it'll be a tight game though, but I think the Doggies will win this one by 7. They just don't tire. Then we end the week, Fremantle versus GWS at Optus, and I'm excited about this game. I think it should be a really paper-wise, a very good one. Melbourne obviously got the job done against a depleted Freo side. Freo don't expect too many players back in this one. If anything, they've lost anything. But I think at the Optus, they just play that ground so well. What I did like about Freo is they did danger Melbourne at times, and their midfield is really impressing me. They're starting to get a real good cohesiveness, and it is a team that can really hurt you. They never give up, and that is an important factor, I think, in this one. GWS, I feel there's a vulnerability for them because I don't think they can play 4 quarters. St Kilda showed you the measure when you hit the outside and you really do take the game to them. I think there's a few question marks about GWS's ability to stand up in the midst and the fire and furnace of AFL footy. GWS did get the job done last time at the Optus, 91-53. But Fremantle did win the one prior to that, 106-82. It's 3-2 in the last 5 games, and I think that Fremantle, for some reason, are going to sneak this one. I think that just that their ability to adapt very quickly, their free-flowing game plan, I think, can take it to GWS. I think they match up well pretty much in the midfield as well. I think you'll see Fifeco back on the ball as well, help out a resurgent Brayshaw and Shearer and Sarong. I just think they've got the tools to really milk that. And I think that their backline, as it showed last year, even without Pearce and Hamlin, is so sufficient. It's so good. Very quick in transition as well, and GWS do leave that over the top transition as a vulnerability. I'm going to back Fremantle here by 9. I think the Dockers just got enough. Got a feeling that's probably the one I'll get wrong there. They're my tips. Let me know your tips in the comments. Let's have a discussion. As always, enjoy this week's of footy. I'll see you soon. Pom out.